Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard. And we have a special Anaheim Mighty Ducks podcast show for you. According to ESPN, that's the Ducks name again. They brought it back during the expansion draft show. So we're going to cover that. We got the entry draft to talk about. We have free agency to go over. Just tons and tons of league news to get to as well. Plenty of stuff to dive into. Eichel back, more news with him and what's going on. It just keeps seeming to elevate. So we'll dive into all that. Eddie, I know it's been a little bit of a time since we talked last.
Nothing much, pretty much the same thing. Work, hockey, gym, going out more, my friends, enjoying life. I remember I was complaining. I was playing on 7-8 hockey teams last season. I wanted to cut it down, but nope. I keep saying Mr. Yes Man. Now I'm on 4 teams again. So my schedule's kind of busy, which I kind of like. It's better than just not doing anything at all. Stayed home for like 2 weeks in a row during the quarantine. But yeah, having a good time. Looking forward to talking some hockey, seeing some hockey going on, the expansion draft, NHL draft. Looking forward to getting real hockey back, getting a full 82 game schedule, being able to go to games with you and hang out with you more and seeing everyone else at the games. I love seeing you guys, talking to you. So I'm really looking forward to that. I can't wait to get started. And also, like I said, Mike is just joking about the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. I don't want everyone going crazy listening to that first line. Oh my God, Ducks and Pucks rumor. They're going back to the Mighty Ducks. So just got to throw it out there before someone reads into that wrong. But looking forward to this show. Looking forward to getting back to the groove of things for the 82 game schedule.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. This last week or so, it's just craziness with all kinds of news going on with the Ducks and around the league. So we'll break it all down. And yes, the 82-game season is coming back. And yes, it's the Anaheim Ducks, not the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. But as we'll get into right now in the Seattle expansion show, they talked about that. And it was kind of a crack up. I don't know. I was kind of underwhelmed by the Seattle expansion draft. A lot of things, I guess, didn't happen that we thought might have happened. There weren't really any of these crazy side deals like with Vegas. That time it seems like they said that the GM, that other GMs learned from that, so there wasn't as many deals. Also, the flat cap kind of an issue. But it was kind of weird. It was kind of underwhelming to me. I was surprised that they didn't take a lot of big-name players that were out there, Eddie. Before we get into the Duck part of it, what did you think overall of the expansion draft? To me, I honestly, I thought it was kind of boring, sadly.
The biggest loser was ESPN. Their first kind of television thing since they got this contract back with NHL, and they kind of dropped the ball, in my opinion. And we'll go over that a little bit more later. But, yeah, I was really surprised of the lack of deals. But like you said, teams learned already, so it wasn't going to be a big old shit show of trades and teams panicking like last season. Also, I was reading prior to this expansion draft that Seattle was requiring a first-round pick from any team for them not to take a certain player or for salary cap retention during the expansion draft. So I think that scared off a lot of teams because the first-round pick is kind of a big deal. And to give up that, not to protect certain player or take certain players, that's kind of going to be hard. And if you add a player that you want them to take your cap, it's going to cost you more. So I think that's what was the reason why the lack of deals that happened, or actually no deals that happened until after. But yeah, it was fun to watch something with hockey too, and I liked the creativity of Seattle trying to do that. Maybe it was a little bit overzealous, but it was kind of fun to watch. It's something different, so we have to give them credit for that. They're kind of defining their own identity like Vegas did, coming out with their social media team and how they were. So I think Seattle's kind of doing that, and I think they did a decent job. I want to say the biggest winner too was Kevin Weeks. I think he absolutely nailed it. He was fun. Kevin Weeks is one of my favorite analysts out there. He makes it enjoyable and fun. Him going around, I think he went around everywhere in Seattle that you can possibly go. So that was fun to see too.
Yeah, you're right. For me overall, I just thought it was kind of dry for me. I wasn't that into it. But you're right. Kevin Weeks did make it for sure, at least bearable on my end to watch. So that part was as good. And we'll see. He comes into play later in the show because y'all know that a certain Captain Getzloff's back. Though there was some drama with that we'll get to later in the show as well. So on the Ducks' perspective with this, there were some surprises. Murray went with the 7-3-1 option to protect players. It kind of leaked out early that it was going to be Fowler, Lindholm, and Manson on defense. We knew Gibson in goal. We talked about that. That wasn't too much of a surprise as far as what Murray did. But then when it got to the forwards, things got kind of crazy because he went with 7. We expected Jones, Rakell, Steele, and Terry and Lundstrom to be in there if he went with the 7. That wasn't really a shocker. But then he also protected Silverberg and Delorier. And that got everybody talking because you all know Silverberg had surgery. He has a high cap hit. His deal is similar to Henrique. So we had talked about, Eddie and I, we thought Silverberg would be exposed just like Henrique, thinking that Seattle wouldn't take him. But nope, Murray protected him. And then the bigger shocker, I guess, because a lot of people were freaking out, is that Delorier was protected. And then I guess even a bigger shocker was there's the NHL Morning Skate podcast, and they were on there talking about how there was rumors that the Ducks could possibly get a first-round pick for D'Lo. So that all kind of went nuts. I mean, I was surprised at what Murray had done with this option. Not that he went 7-3-1. That wasn't a complete shocker. But that he protected D'Lo and Silverberg. And then, just these rumors about the Ducks that they could get a first-round pick for D'Lo. And I was like, what the hell? What did you think, Eddie? Because there's a little bit of chaos when the list came out. And then the value for D'Lo being, ranked so high allegedly. And people just kind of, just overall going like, what the hell's going on with this? That part kind of set me back before the actual expansion draft.
That's awesome. My boy, freaking D'Lo, he's getting protected. No, but you know what? Honestly, I don't think, I don't know. If they would have protected Fleury instead of D'Lo and went a different route, I don't know if Seattle would have taken him. They seem to be taking some more gritty guys. But it was, a big shocker that he was protected. But you know what? Good for him. I'm pretty sure he has a big chip on his shoulder. His head got a little bigger from being protected. And a first-round draft pick for him, if any team in the whole league wants to give that for D'Lo, take it, like 100%. Everyone saw Ryan Reeves get traded to New York. He got fetched a third-round pick, and that's pretty good for a fourth-line enforcer type of player because that's what Ryan Reeves is. D'Lo's more of that third-line grinder center that can still produce some kind of offense, but I think he's still like one of the best fighters in the league. So if we can get a third-round pick for him and maybe a something a little bit more, I mean, that's a big win for the Ducks. Would I want to see him go? Absolutely not. He's one of my favorite players on the Ducks, but that's just like really shocking that they protected him and then us hearing that he can possibly get a first-round pick from one of the other podcasts. So that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, when I heard that too, just like all of you out there about the first-round pick, everybody, we all had the same expression like, are they smoking crack on that show over there? Like, what's going on that podcast over there? What those guys are talking about in the morning skate? I'm like, I don't know. Getting a draft pick, of course, first round. I'm like, okay. And everyone knows how much we like D'Lo on this show, and I'm with Eddie on that too. I mean, if you can get a first round pick for D'Lo, yeah, you should do that. Which we know that's not going to happen, but that was pretty crazy. I'm with you though, as far as like with Reeves getting traded. D'Lo's more of a third, fourth round pick at best if you're talking about something like that. A first round pick's pretty crazy. Even a second round pick would be crazy for him to get picked up, on that. So I thought that was interesting. And then we put out our poll question, once the list came out, who we thought was going to get picked. Everybody put Fleury, which is pretty much what we thought once this list came out. That's what happened. I'm not really that upset. I mean, this isn't a Vegas scenario. It's not like we're losing a huge, Shea Theodore type player. But the thing that is kind of frustrating for me is that we did trade Hakanpää away and a draft pick for Fleury. So, in essence, we are kind of losing more than one player, basically. I still think the Ducks could have protected Fleury. They might have been able to expose Fowler if they wanted to. We talked about that with his big cap hit. We didn't think they were going to take him either. So I think that they could have done that and gone that route, but they didn't. Or maybe they could have adjusted it with the forwards and stuff, and they could have done the 8-1 scenarios we talked about, because if you leave off D'Lo and Silverberg, you're down to 5 forwards now, and then it probably would have come down to Steele or Jones, like we had talked about in previous shows, and they could have done something like that. But I guess Murray was worried about losing the forwards, so he opted to go 7-3-1. So not a big loss for the Ducks, losing Fleury in this. I wasn't really too upset about the way the expansion draft went down. Just kind of some of the surprises there with Silverberg and D'Lo being.
Yeah, it was kind of odd too, because no one knew what Seattle was going to do, and they went an opposite route. They didn't take some of the best players they could have. They missed the Tarasenko's. They could have took some of the bigger names. I know they were talking to Gabriel Landeskog's camp prior to this expansion draft to see if they can get a deal done and possibly take him. But it was just interesting to see some of the choices they made. It seems like they have a different strategy than Vegas did. Vegas wanted to take the best player possible to have that contending team, and they made the Stanley Cup final their first season. But I think teams are going to look at it differently. Obviously, Vegas is a different city, a different place, a different atmosphere, and you have the Vegas flu, which everyone knows what that means. Players are going to Vegas playing in the expansion team. They're going to think it's easy. And Vegas kind of exploited that, took advantage of that right away. Seattle knows that it's going to be different with them. Teams are smarter. They're not going to underestimate them. They're going to come out hard, and they're coming out firing. And it's Seattle. It's not a big old party town like Vegas. So I think they had to be smarter in their choices and kind of prepare to elevate their future more than try to win a cup as fast as they can. So I think they did it a different way. It's nothing wrong with the way they're doing it, because they're poised to get some higher draft picks in the next few seasons, and I was expecting them to be that contending team to make the Stanley Cup final or to win a cup in the next couple seasons. But they're just kind of build off the team they have and try to kind of utilize all the cap space they do have and get more draft picks and build their team that way.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, we talked about this before the show, that like with the A's, and they did the whole small ball type thing where they went with baseball players with the on-base percentage, slugging percentage. They weren't necessarily going after all-stars with home runs and things like that. And that's kind of what they did here. They didn't go after Tarasenko, like you mentioned, big-name player, high offense, right? They could have gone for like a Carey Price type, Freddie Anderson. They left some of these bigger-name players off the board. I know that they looked at the analytics, so they're looking at the puck possession, especially in the offensive zone and 5-on-5 and different things like that. So it kind of seems like they're going more that direction. And I'm with you. There's nothing wrong with it. I just thought it was interesting that they didn't at least try to grab a couple big name players, because they were out there and teams, left them hanging basically. And I know some of them had injury issues here and there, and some of the names that we're talking about, and some didn't. But it'll be curious to see. It seems like with them being obviously in the Ducks Division 2, I don't really expect them to do as well like Vegas has in the beginning for the first couple seasons. I think Seattle is maybe trying to start out a little bit slower, like you talked about, and build up later on. So we'll see how it works out. I think some things did go against them, the economy and the flat cap, basically. GMs being wise to what happened in the previous expansion draft. So I think some of those kind of slowed down things. But yeah, I mean, they're here. It'll be interesting. According to ESPN, we're the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. And, we also went on our buddy show, Mike, on Seattle Sports Diaries right after. And if you listen to it, there was a little bit of drinking on that show and a little bit of us going off about certain things on there. We talked about the draft, too, which we'll get into in a little bit. But if you have a chance to check out his show, I just want to give them a shout out. Because we did go on there and talk about the expansion draft, and we go into the date. Well, it was the first round pick basically that we talked about for the Ducks, because that's when we did the show.
A little bit of drinking. I did a lot of drinking. I took I don't know how many shots with his co-host too, like live. That was freaking awesome. I was pretty lit on that show, and it was cool. Thank you for the invite, and definitely check them out. But it was a really fun show to do, and Well, like I try to keep some certain composure on this show, but the other show goes. I asked Mike over there on the other show, "Hey, do you mind?" He goes, "No, just drink ahead. Let's do it." It's like, okay, cool. So you might hear a little bit of slurring from me, but I had to keep my glasses on too because I was kind of lit from the night before. But it was a really fun show to do. It was fun. So I was kind of honored to be on their show too, especially with Mike Walters too. Like just like both of us be on there, so it was pretty fun.
Yeah, we did a little different deal on that show for sure. I went off a little bit too on there too about certain things. I kind of let loose. So if you want to hear me unfiltered and Eddie unfiltered, you can go on that show and check it out. But yeah, so Seattle's here. They did their thing, and then we had the entry draft coming up. And the Ducks, we won't go. I mean, we'll mention the picks. Won't really dive into all of them. I was so busy that day cranking out the articles for you guys on day 2, that is, with all of them. So I went over all these scouting reports and threw in all the stuff in there so you guys can go back and read all those. We'll just kind of go over it in general, how the Ducks did. We were talking about the first round pick. You know, Matty Beniers was the one that I wanted. And, of course, Seattle took him second, so I was kind of bummed out about that. The Ducks did take Mason Mctavish as their first round pick, third overall. And it's not a bad pick at all. I thought maybe Eklund would be one of the other ones that they would go for if Beniers was not there, but they went with McTavish. This guy is 6'1", almost 200 pounds, plays center. He's got good offense, can create scoring chances, a solid shot, logs a lot of ice time, and he can play center and wing. That's a big thing that I harped on that last show that I like. Having players that can play multiple positions offensively, I always think that that's huge, especially with this Ducks team because they have tons of centers now, and with Getzloff coming back as well, and this guy. So I like it. And they just said, I put in some cons in there in the articles. It's not to slam any of the players. I'm just going by the prospect reports and throwing out the info in there. They just said that he needs to kind of work on his transition game, neutral zone game, and his passing there. So that's kind of the take on him. But I was happy overall on day 1 with this pick, Eddie. A little bit of a surprise. Like I said, I thought maybe there were a couple other people that Thomas and Logan talked about in their articles. McTavish was one that was not so much on the radar, but he's the one that they went with for their first pick.
Yeah, I was listening to Spit and Chicklets podcast too, and they were talking about how he's a little bit of a spicy player too. He has that little bit of physicality, and they mentioned if he can turn into a Max Comtois kind of player that can score, but then be like nasty at times. That's always a plus and positive, especially for me. I like those players like that. I think that's what you got to have success in the league. Look at the Kachuk brothers. They play with that kind of nastiness and that edge, but they get the job done. So I think with Tim, I think he complements, which a lot of people have said, Zegras. I guess his the cons is passing, but if he can just finish the plays from Zegras, then really who needs a really 100% strong passer like that. But overall, it was a big surprise, but I'm glad we got him. I hope he develops to a top player that we desperately need, and he can try to help the Ducks bounce them back into a playoff contending team in the future, because we definitely are getting tired of being this last place team and not really having a lot to be excited for. So it's going to be exciting, and we just have to wait and see, and hopefully he turns into that kind of player that we all hope he does.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one question we had on him from Mario Melendez, he said, will McTavish make his debut this year? I'm leaning towards no as of right now, but that could change. A lot of it really factors in the center position with the Ducks, which we'll talk a little bit later in the show. But as you all know, Getzloff came back. Henrique is still on the team. You have Steele, Lundstrom, and Grant as well. So you have plenty of centers there. I mean, McTavish can play wing, so I don't know if, like with Zegras, is that something that, like you said, he can complement him? Will they put him on wing with Zegras at center and play? That might change things a little bit. Or if the Ducks make another move this summer. I know that a lot of you ask questions about that. A lot of you are frustrated. We'll get to that portion of the show too. So I think it's a no right now, but that could change, obviously, with some of the things that happen along the way. So good first overall pick. The Ducks then basically they drafted a lot of players by size on this time around. I thought it was kind of interesting. Reviewing all the players, most of the players were 6 feet tall or higher, with the exception of their second-round pick, Owen Zellweger, and their very, very last pick in the 6th round, Kyle Kakunin. So, who's still in high school, so he's got some.
He's 5'10", 165 pounds. He definitely he's going to grow into a bigger frame. So.
Yeah, and he's a younger dude. So, with that, I'm not really worried there. But all the rest of the players are huge. Big guys. Third, they had Sasha Postajov at 6 foot, 184 weight. Tyson Heinz, who they traded their 3rd round pick next year for. He's at 6'3", 179. 4th round was Joshua Lopina at center, 6'1", 193. 5th round, you had Sean Chagall at 6 foot, 181. And then crazy, the 5th round, also this goalie, Gage Alexander, 6'7", 217. Holy crap, Eddie, this guy is huge. What did you think about that? The Ducks take that goal, the only goalie they took.
You know what's funny, Mike? I want to say, minus the goalie, you're taller than all the draft picks that they picked up. I definitely want to say that.
True.
But that was actually I was thinking too, and correct me if I'm wrong, or if you guys listen to the show, you guys can message us if I'm wrong, let me know. But I think this is probably the biggest goalie that the Ducks ever had as a draft-wise or part of their system in franchise history. I can't recall a goalie being that big that they picked up minus Bobkov. I think he was 6'5", maybe 6'6", maybe. But this is a pretty big goalie. Maybe they're hoping he's kind of turns into Andrew Vasilevsky kind of goalie, because Vasilevsky's 6'7". But yeah, his size is pretty big. He covers the net, and I see you wrote that. But hopefully he transitioned to something good. And usually the Ducks, they're really good at getting goalies and starting a big goalie controversy between fans. So hopefully in the future we'll see this guy being one of those goalies it's going to be him versus him, and fans starts arguing about who's better and stuff like that. So knock on wood, but hopefully it turns out good for the Ducks. And you never know, he can be that Vasilevsky kind of goalie that can transition the Ducks to a elite team and steal even more games than Gibson does for them.
Yeah, what's interesting with him is when I'm going through day 2 and I'm cranking out these articles. You guys are watching the show and they're doing the 2nd round. They start early in the morning. It goes till later in the day. And I'm researching all these people. As soon as they come up, I'm looking up everything. And I'm piling through all the scouting reports and putting everything together. And all these players, I found decent amount of information. This was the one player I didn't find a whole lot on. I guess last season he seemed to do pretty well. The year before that he didn't play as well, and they said that some people didn't have him on their draft ranking at all for this draft because they said he was, quote, a work in progress. They also said that he was inconsistent with his play. But there's not a lot of other stuff I could find on him. It was kind of weird trying to look up the players, but I guess because he wasn't really on the radar on the draft at all is why there wasn't a whole lot about him. So if any of you have more on him, please let me know. Verify what Eddie said. If he's the tallest goalie we drafted, I think Eddie's right on that. I don't recall someone being taller. And Eddie's right. Yes, I am 6'4", so these guys are all shorter than me, which doesn't mean anything. But that is part of it. I noticed too. I was laughing, looking at all these guys. But I like what they did. They went with size, Eddie. We talked about that. Sometimes they don't always go for size, and to me, size does matter. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of other analytics and things like that all matter too. But I do like that the Ducks did go, generally with bigger players.
Bobkov was 6'6". But no, I just thought it was funny because you're saying Ducks come with size, but you're taller than all of them. That's the only thing that was funny about that. But that kind of intrigued me. But I'll probably look it up, do some more research. If you guys listen to the show and you find it before we do, go ahead and shoot us a DM or something. We'll definitely post it and give you guys the credit for it. But yeah, we definitely want to know. But I'm pretty sure. Since my Ducks fan stuff started when I was in '95, so there's 2 years that I wasn't a Ducks fan where I didn't really know about hockey. But yeah, if there's another goalie that's bigger than 6'7" or even that size, go ahead and let us know. Yeah,
for sure. Get out your computers and research. The one thing I thought was interesting in this draft was the 2nd pick, Owen Zellweger, 5'9", 175. Good defensive player, they said. Two-way player. Can play both sides of the rink. Good passer. But then they said he has issues sometimes getting caught too deep on the ice. So he was the one that was under 6 feet tall, right, out of all these, excluding the high school guy, Kyle, in the 6th round. But of all the other picks, the size-wise, he was there. It seems like it's still a decent pick in the 2nd round. I don't have too much of an issue with him. He seems kind of maybe a Vatanen type player, which I'm okay with. But then in the 3rd round, the Ducks traded a pick, for next season or next draft for this one. They take Tyson Heinz, is a bigger guy, but I was reading the book on him, and it's kind of the same thing. Another two-way player jumps up in the play, but then he can get caught up on ice and sometimes takes too much of a risk, is what I've seen as some of the cons. So that was the only thing. If I had a criticism of this draft, is I don't know why they traded that pick, pulled that kind of guy in who's a similar type player to their 2nd round pick. I mean, I know they're not exactly the same, but just reading the book on it, my initial take on that, it just seemed interesting to trade to go get somebody that I don't know if they necessarily need Tyson Heinz in this draft. I mean, I hope he works out. I don't think he's necessarily a bad pick, but it seemed like they got 2 players that are kind of similar there. Both the defensemen that they picked in here, and the rest were forwards and centers and whatnot. So that was the only thing for me I thought was kind of weird, and why. I know we had a poll. A lot of you went with A or B for the draft grade. It was like 34, 35%, almost even. I threw C in there, which I didn't think a lot of people would vote for C, and not many of you did. But a lot of you were split between A and B, and that's kind of where I felt. I think in the beginning, I thought the Ducks were like an A minus. Started out kind of strong. And then when they made this trade and picked him up, I thought, okay, what's going on here? And then obviously some of their 5th, 6th round picks are kind of questionable. But then again, it's a 5th, 6th round. So for me, I'm kind of in the A minus, B plus range. I think they did go overall. I don't know, that trade for that one pick. I'm not really sure how it's going to work out.
But obviously they traded a pick to get him, so they see something in him that they really want, and they hope that he develops into something with that they're willing to risk that pick for. So there's obviously something that scouts saw that we haven't, that didn't really hit the radar for a lot of other teams. Maybe they called up teams before that. I'm not sure how scouts work, and I'm pretty sure they give each other a little bit of tips. Obviously not going to give the best tips. Maybe it's someone that they thought that can fit the mold of the Anaheim Ducks, and Murray thought that's going to be something that he wants to incorporate in his team moving forward in the future. Hopefully not in the future for Murray, but maybe that's something he wanted. For me, I probably give the Ducks a B, just a solid B, no minus, no B plus, solid B on this draft. We're at the wait and see. So, and I'm probably copying a lot of other people that are saying B too, but hopefully it works out. You never know who you can get. That 6th round pick, that kid from high school can turn out to be a next superstar. You just never know what you're going to get from this draft. You never know who's going to just pop up and be something different. Maybe that 3rd round pick that they traded and they got that defenseman for, he turns out to be a top pairing defenseman one day. I mean, we all hope that. We all dream of that. Knock on wood or anything. I don't want to jinx anything, but it's just a chance you have to take. They took a gamble. I do like that gamble that they took trading for him. You never know how it's going to work out. So hopefully he can work on some of the cons and build off all the pros that he has and becomes hopefully a full-time NHLer, at least, if not a top player. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, you do bring up a good point. I mean, obviously they did have to see something to trade for him. They must have, right before then, knew that this guy was available. They weren't going to get him in the 4th round, so they went out to get him. So there's definitely some reason why he got in there. I just thought he was very similar to the 2nd round pick. So, but the Ducks do draft well. Mike Madden does a great job. They're looking at this. This draft too was very different and very difficult. It's hard to evaluate it. Thomas replied to our poll question saying that he'll tell us in 5 years how they are, because he does this. Every 5 years later on he'll do a draft thing. We had the 2016 one that he had put out right during this week on everything. I always laugh when he says that, but it's true. I mean, you can't look at it right away. This year, I just put out that poll question to see. I think what's difficult has been, this past season or year in general, heck, the last 2 years at this point. But you have teams that did not play in the minors. You had shortened seasons. Therefore, getting the scouting stuff on some of these was more difficult. Like I told you on Gage Alexander, I could hardly find anything on him. On the rest of the players, though, I put in all the stuff that I could pull off that I found was relevant, especially in the top picks. If you didn't read the articles, there's video clips in there from Twitter or YouTube or whatnot of different, highlight reel action that they did. So you can go back and check all those. They're up there on DucksNPucks.com. So I was happy with the draft. I thought, like I said, the Ducks did well. Overall, it seems like they've been drafting, pretty decently for the last few seasons and whatnot. So you had all that, the expansion draft, the regular entry draft, and then we waited for free agency, what was going to happen with the Ducks. We'll kind of break down what the team or what Murray had done after all this. So, with the RFAs, the restricted free agents, Murray gave offers to all of them except for Dayton Heinen. He gave Comtois, Jones, Lundstrom, Mahura, and Steele all their minimum offers, qualifying offers. We don't know exactly what those contracts will be yet. We haven't heard anything yet. We know that he didn't extend Heinen. That was not a surprise. For Heinen, his minimum qualifying offer would have been $2.8 million. We knew Murray was trying to trade him earlier in the season. So I was not shocked with that one at all. And then he ended up going to Pittsburgh for $1.1 million, 1-year deal. So I don't think there's any surprises with the restricted free agents, Eddie.
Oh, no, not at all. Heinen, we all knew he was gone. It seems like he never really got a full chance in Anaheim, so I'm not sure what happened and what put him in the doghouse. I think he had a decent season in Boston when he was over there playing that two-way, more of a defensive forward game. I think he could have been utilized more, but I have no idea what happened where he wasn't. And obviously a trade didn't happen. And he ended up just getting picked up by Pittsburgh. I wish him all the luck over there. I think he will thrive and he'll have a better season in Pittsburgh. They'll give him that more opportunity to be maybe that third line center. But it was kind of weird that this whole season they didn't give him that chance and they didn't even utilize him as much as they could have. Ducks had a big kind of a defensive problem and getting a lot of shots, a lot of goals scored on them. I think he could have been an asset, but it never really worked out in Anaheim for some reason. So nothing. I wish him nothing but the best. He's a Duck for life, like I say with every player.
Yeah, I know 100%. I mean, that's what happened. I wasn't surprised that he was gone. I thought maybe the Ducks would try and bring him back for a lesser amount or something after they didn't do the extension, which they ended up not doing. So he was out, and then a bunch of other players actually left the Ducks. The unrestricted free agents, they've signed with other teams now. We know Agazino went to Ottawa for 1 year. DeLeo went to New Jersey. Walensky went to Calgary. Rowney's still up in the air. He hasn't signed with anybody as of yet. And then Backus, we're pretty sure he retired, but there hasn't really been anything official, or I haven't seen it yet. And then Murray did bring back Volkov for 1 year, just under $1 million. So that was good. I liked Volkov. It was good to see that. And then, of course, the big one was Ryan Getzlaf came back, which is kind of funny because we talked about this, right when the season ended and said it was pretty much going to happen. And a couple days leading up to it, things got all crazy. There was that video clip of him talking about that there was an itch. He wanted to test free agency. And then our man, Kevin Weeks, that we were talking about the Seattle expansion draft, how we liked his commentary, he comes out on the day of free agency and says it's a done deal. Then it gets, countered and says it's not a done deal. And it was up in the air. And then finally it comes out it was a done deal. Kind of a crazy day on that free agency with the Getzloff situation. What did you think about that, Eddie? I mean, we pretty much thought he was going to come back. We heard from a few other people too that was going to happen, and then it seemed like the day or two before that, things got a little cray-cray.
Yeah, let me backtrack real quick on the UFAs for the Ducks. Chase DeLeo, it's unfortunate they lost him. I think he was one of the heart and soul players of San Diego. He was one of their leaders and played well over there. Unfortunately, he wasn't getting the opportunity to make the NHL for the Ducks, so I wish him the best of luck too. We almost had him on the show. Unfortunately, the logistics didn't work. He would have been a really good guy to have on, down-to-earth guy, kind of a SoCal local kid. Loves animals too, so it definitely was kind of touches me too, him loving animals. But yeah, I wish him all the best in New Jersey. I hope he cracks the lineup and he becomes kind of a regular player in the NHL. Rowney, unfortunately, his injury, I think he was having a really good year and he would have been, got a little bit more of a payday. So I still wish him the best of luck too. I hope teams can see that the injury slowed him down, but he's still valuable, and I hope he gets signed to something and somewhere of a contract that he deserves. As far as Getzloff, this is kind of bad to say. This is kind of hurtful to say because I like Getzloff. He's been our captain for a long time, and his number's going to be up in the rafters, but I was kind of hoping that he would sign with another team. I think he deserved the right to go and try to win a Stanley Cup. And that's just my whole thing of it. But I get it, his loyalty to the Ducks, that's really appreciative. I love that, but I think he deserves the right to do that. He doesn't owe any, the Ducks or the fans anything. He's gave his heart and soul, his blood, his tears, his sweat to the team. I was glad that he went and tested the free agency market. It's the first time in his career that he actually was able to experience that, so I'm glad he did that. I know he had interest and made some offers from Montreal and Dallas. But yeah, it's happy he signed back with the Ducks, especially I just got a New Jersey with him on it. But I hope when it comes down to when the Ducks aren't in that position to make the playoffs that he'll consider a trade to try to, if it works for him and his family, a trade elsewhere and try to go and chase the cup. I wouldn't even mind him going to Tampa with Perry, and Tampa wins again, and Getzloff and Perry can win a cup together again. I mean, that'd be a fairy tale ending to their winding down careers. But yeah, I'm glad he's back with the Ducks, and he's gonna start the season with the Ducks. But it was just it was a whirlwind of emotions because fans were upset. People didn't know what was gonna happen. Everyone's speculating on where he's gonna go. The only thing I got mad about was reading articles or reading stuff about him going to Nashville because I would have lost my mind and punched a hole in my wall if that would have happened. But I'm glad he did what he did. I'm glad he came back. But I hope it's not the end of it. I hope he's not going to... I don't know. I kind of hope he's not going to stay with the Ducks for the whole season. And like I said, I hope if the Ducks aren't in that position to be a playoff team and that trade deadline comes and it's okay with his family to leave for that half a season and try to win a cup, and yeah, so be it. That's good for him. He deserves it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think part of it that kind of plays into this, which we found out later on, because I know some people were upset when the deal was announced because of the amount. It was a 1-year deal for $4.5 million. Well, we found out that it's really $3 million, and then there's $1.5 million that he can get for a certain amount of games he plays. I haven't seen the specific amount of games. If any of you have seen it out there, I don't know. I haven't seen that posted on Cap Friendly or anywhere else. Maybe we'll find out later from like Eric Stevens or something like that. But that may be part of it, depending on what happens. Like how many games is it? If it's like 40 or 50 games, maybe not as much. I don't know. So that would be something to look at this season. And that's kind of where I was at too. When the deal came out, we talked about it. I was okay with bringing him back for like $2-3 million. $3.5 million, something like that. To me, anything over $4 million, I thought was too much. And so when it came out, I was kind of like, okay, he came back, but I'm like $4.5 million. I was like, what? So I was one of those. If you were one of those that didn't like the dollar amount, I'm with you. That's where I was at when it was first announced. Now that they finally came out with the whole breakdown of the deal, I'm fine with it. $3 million, and he's got to play these games to get the other 1.5. I'm good with that. And I'm with Eddie. I would like to see him go to another team and try and win a cup. We talked about it last year when all that news came out that he might have gone to Vegas. Then we found out Colorado was in the mix. He had some chances to do some stuff, and he didn't. Now Perry has gone to Tampa Bay, so that would be interesting, as you brought up, Eddie, for him to go over there. Would be definitely interesting if they were to win a cup and finish this. Getzloff finished out his career there, so to speak, and whatnot. But another thing that was interesting too, Eddie, was the comment Getzlaf said about building the team in his interview afterwards. We had JG Mara 714, put in that too, and he kind of put it on Murray. Said, hey, I still think this team can win, but he also said, I think Murray needs to add to the team this summer. What did you think about that in this whole situation?
Yeah, well, he does. Like, if you want this win now mentality that you've been preaching for the last few seasons, you can't win now with shopping at the 99-cent store and expect those kind of players to work out. And we'll talk about that comment I just said. And shortly, this team's not a playoff team. I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry to burst your bubbles. I'm not being negative. I'm not just trying to put the team down at all. I'm just saying what I see from the team. The last few seasons, the roster hasn't really changed all too much. Getzlaf coming back's a big deal too. He's the heart and soul. He's the captain. He's going to help those players develop. It doesn't help too. He's 18 points away from his 1,000th point in a Ducks uniform. So I think that's something significant and special. And I want to say that's something that helped him kind of come back to the Ducks and want that pride to do that. And maybe those certain games played, if he gets traded at the deadline, the Ducks aren't going to be responsible for that. So maybe that's something taken consideration too. But as far as his comments about Brian Murray, I can't see that happening. I get why he said that. He's the captain. He wants that optimism for the team, and he wants to show those quality leadership abilities and stay positive. And I love it. I think that's what makes him one of the best captains in the league. If not, I think he's probably one of the best captains in the league. I'm not just saying that just as being a Ducks fan either. But it's just, we have to have a little bit of reality time. I can't see this team being that with the Murray at all. We all know how Murray is. We all know the stuff he wants to do, the stuff he says, the kind of players he signs, hoping that they're just going to have a 180 in their career and be those superstars again. It's just, I love the optimism, but it's not going to happen. And hopefully, like I keep saying every year, I just want us to improve from the year before. If we can improve on special teams this season, especially on the power play, especially of being scoring more goals this season, you can't ask for anything more from the Ducks.
Yeah, and the thing that added to that, I think that got more people kind of bent. You're talking about Murray and, Getzloff saying we need to add more, and then the lack of big moves and whatnot, because over the course of the first 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever of free agency, Murray went and signed more players, but they're all pretty much depth moves. He got 2 forwards and 2 defensemen, Brogan Rafferty, Greg Padaran, Danny O'Regan, and Buddy Robinson, who are all pretty much AHL players. There's not really a whole lot to them, unfortunately. So now you have Getzloff saying, okay, we need to go do more things. I think this team can win. Kind of contradicts a little bit. Then you have Murray goes, he picks up these depth guys. And meanwhile, that free agency day, you see all these people doing all these moves and all this stuff. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the show with our league news and whatnot. But it's definitely frustrating, Eddie, because there hasn't been a lot of big moves. You brought back Volkov, you bring back Getzloff. Okay, is that really doing anything for this team? There's not much going on. I just don't. I'm like you. We're realists on this show. Of course, we're Duck fans. We're going to go to the games. We're going to cheer for the team and everything like that. But I don't even see this team. Last year we said, they could maybe squeeze into the playoffs. And we weren't even close. I mean, they didn't even make it. I mean, we talked about how we thought they weren't going to make it, but we had a little bit of hope that maybe they could have squeezed in the bottom with the realigned divisions and all this stuff and everything. And it's going to change a little bit again, right? Arizona's going out of the division. We're getting Seattle. But I don't even think this team's close to a wild card, spot or anything. I just don't see it unless they go out and do something else. With what they have right now, Eddie, truth hurts, but this team is not going to make the playoffs. If they do by some chance make it with this team right here, we've talked about this. I don't really want them to make the playoffs because we know they're going to get in there. They're going to get smoked, and they're not going to get as good of a draft pick. That's where they're at. So unless they do some other stuff, which we'll talk about here in a second, because there's trade rumor news going on, which we'll get to. But the team as it is right now, Eddie, I'm not really optimistic about playoffs and how far they'll go.
That's not bad to say at all. Like I said, like we're realists. We get a lot of comments that we're not one of those podcasts that just want to tell the Ducks are the best team in the world. I wish they were. I wish that was the case, but it's unfortunate. We're at to deal with this kind of rebuild mode right now. But it happens to all the teams, and it builds our characters as fans too to stick with our teams. And it's only going to have that more pride when the Ducks do get to that point and they are a contender again, and then when they do win the Stanley Cup again, like I think it's going to happen. I believe it in my heart. It's going to happen. It's not going to be like Toronto, like just always having that bad luck, that shit luck, and always just dropping the ball at the end. So it's just going to be one of those times we have to be patient. We have to wait and see. Hopefully the beer prices drop because the team's so bad. But you know what? We get to watch some hockey. We get to watch a team that a lot of us grew up on, new fans, old fans. It's going to be one of those times. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, but at least we don't have to deal with crap that other teams have to deal with Buffalo, what Chicago is going on. We'll talk about later. With San Jose, like we don't have to deal with that off ice drama. So I really love the fact that we're just a really bad team as far as the product on the ice, but there's no off ice issues that we have to like kind of hold our heads down and have to try to talk about. That's one of the positive things that I'm glad about the Ducks have to deal with are those off ice issues, but we just have to stick around and hopefully it turns out for the best. We all know Murray does Murray things. He shops at the 99 cents store for Macy's kind of players. I'm not trying to talk down to any of these players at all. I'm just trying to be the reality of it. They're more, like you said, depth. They're more San Diego goals players. Occasionally come up when we need them. Hopefully those injuries don't happen, but it's been one of those trending themes for the Ducks. So we just have to be patient and hopefully, hopefully all this madness ends soon and maybe next season, the following season or a season after that, we can start seeing like what those teams need or what we need to be that contending team, and we can see our players start developing better and see Zegras and Drysdale be those superstars that we desperately need.
Yeah, and it's not all as lost, like you're saying, too. I mean, there is some stuff going on right now. We know that there's reports out there that Murray is still shopping around Henrique again. And then just before we recorded this show on Elliot Freeman's podcast, he talked about Rakell and whether or not the Ducks were going to extend him or not. They think Rakell wants too much money. So there might be a trade in the works again for him, another name, right, that came up last season. So those are two players to watch that the Ducks could move. I don't know if it happens with Henrique. The thing there with what happened with last season, how it went down, it didn't end well, but then he played better at the end of the season and then for Team Canada. So maybe he picked up some steam there. The Ducks do have an abundance of centers right now with Getzloff and Seagrass and Steele and Lundstrom, Grant, all these guys. So if they're going to make some kind of trade, I mentioned in my article that I wrote about on the, just recently with the free agency and Getzloff coming back, maybe they look at Eichel situation, which we'll break that down because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with that. But that's something to look at. And then a smaller Pittsburgh blog put out more rumors about Gibson. This one I don't think is legit, but it's kind of interesting. They talk about how the Ducks might want Jason Zucker, a prospect, and another player for Gibson. I don't know how much truth there is to that. This thing has been going on forever with the Gibson thing, so I don't look at that one as being as legit, especially because the source is kind of a no-name small blog. But you never know. Sometimes they can throw things out there and they're right. But I really think Henrique and Rakell are the ones to look at, because a lot of you guys are asking questions, are the Ducks going to sign a big scorer? Are they going to move anybody? A lot of you on Instagram, I'm just kind of grouping together your questions because a lot of them are very, very similar. Adam Town talks about, will the Ducks make any trades right now? I think they're in the market to make a trade. I know that they are still in on Eichel. I can tell you that much. Like I said, we'll break it down later. That situation gets kind of weird. So that's still out there. And then Henrique and Rakell. Though that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, Eddie. I don't know if you've heard anything else or what do you think? I still think the Ducks can make trades. I think they can improve this team. They can make this team a playoff team, or at least a better team if they want to. As of right now, they're not that team. But there's still time to do stuff. I mean, October's not here yet. We're just starting August. They can do some things. But I just don't know. The one big thing I think that was sad with Rakell is he was doing so well last season. At that one point, his value was so high. And then remember, he took that awkward tumble, hit his head, came back. But, he didn't play as well since then. So, Rakell and Henrique's values, I don't know if they're as high or not as they were. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Henrique's has gone a little bit up and Rakell's a little down. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell right now what the Ducks could get for these guys. I definitely think Rakell isn't as high. So the Ducks can look around. They have interest, but I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger. Or what do you think about some of these? If they're going to trade maybe somebody else?
Murray ducked up when he did not trade Rakell when his ceiling was high. He could have easily fetched a first-round pick for him. He was on fire. His contract isn't that bad at all. It's doable for teams. It's cap-friendly. He didn't pull the trigger. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure there was teams calling about him that could have used him. That was a big fail, another fail for Murray not doing it. And if you trade Rakell now, his price won't be that high. I doubt you're going to get a first-round pick unless you have a team overpay. It was just that was the right time to make that move. The Ducks weren't going to be in a playoff position. Definitely not last year at all. We all knew that. And Rakell was just going absolutely bananas and going crazy. Henrique, I loved his play after he got benched or after he got waived and benched. He just started he caught that fire again when he was playing for Canada too. He looked good. He could be traded. A team would love to have him. He'd be a great asset. He's that kind of center that you want. However, his contract is not team friendly right now. So if anything ever happens, Ducks are going to have to send something another team's way. Are going to eat up his contract, but they still get his contract and they can trade him to a team that would want someone, especially a contending team. Like I said, I don't trust Murray with trades anymore, and people are upset about the free agency and about the lack of trades. I'm not. It's the first season where I'm content that Murray didn't do anything because I don't want anything from Murray. I don't want this to be his team anymore. I keep saying I want another GM to come in and I want him to form his own team and not have to fix Murray's mistakes. But I think if you're gonna trade these two players, like I said, Henrique, you have to eat up something or send some kind of package for them to take the whole contract. And Rakell, you just dropped the ball on that. You could have got a heavy return. Teams would have overpaid. He was on fire. You could justify that. He cooled off, and now you really can't. So we're just kind of stuck in. It doesn't seem like any significant trades are going to happen anytime soon. So we have to wait and see. And as far as the Gibson thing, yes, I know people are going to get tired of it, but it's going to keep coming up and keep coming up and keep coming up. Especially there's rumors about Pittsburgh Penguins. So shout out to this blog. They did their job. They got a lot of hits. On Facebook, the Ducks groups are going bananas and crazy about this. It's as far as what they're asking for, I'm pretty sure this blog would be just going crazy, and they'd just go to the bar and get nuts if this trade ever happened for what they want. Because if anything involves Gibson, it's going to have Jake Getzlaf to be part of it, and not the people they mentioned. So.
Yeah, the other names on there, just so you know, like you said, they said that Zucker would be part of the deal, and then another prospect or pick, and then some of the names they threw out there. They threw out Pedersen, which I don't know if the Ducks would pull him back again, Yari, and then Letang. And then Letang, they were talking about retaining salaries. So it's just kind of some things they threw out there. It blew up, kind of like it blew up, what was it? It was Valentine's Day, right? When it first blew up, I remember because I was like, what the hell's going on that day? We were joking about it on the podcast. So it was like, really? On this day, I'm trying to relax and do some stuff with my wife and hang out and have a good weekend. And this drops on that weekend. I'm like, okay. So this just popped up. And like you said, people are going nuts on it too. I don't see it happening. They're just going along with the same thing that, Gibson's from Pittsburgh and he wants to go home and yada, yada, yada. I just don't see it. I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, this team, unless you're going to now hand the keys over to Dostal and run with it and let him do his thing, or some of the other goalies, but I just don't see that happening right now. And if it does, and something crazy like this happens, then I will come back on here and I will eat crow. But I don't think that's going to happen. And like all of you, you're frustrated. I know Ryan Greco brought this up too. How much longer are the Samiolis going to allow Bob to have his job? I think we need to kind of have a full overhaul. He's talking about with the GM and the coaching staff. And the Ducks did do that with the coaching staff, except with Aikens. They did bring in all the assistants we talked about. They brought in Daniel Jacob and Max Talbot to the goals. So they did overhaul all the coaching staff, like I said, except for Dallas. And then Murray's still here. Murray and Aikens only have this last year in their contract. So that's where we're at with this scenario. And I hope... I know some of you have mixed feelings about this with Aikens. I'm not fully against Aikens. I would still keep him, but Murray is the problem here, and we've talked about it over and over ad nauseum, and I can't go any further into that. But that's the issue we're at, and I think, like you said, he dropped the ball on the Rakell thing. He could have gotten that done, and he didn't. And maybe Henrique, he has something with that. It sounds like he doesn't want to trade Silverberg because he protected him in the expansion draft, so that's one that may not move. Plus, his contract's not very friendly either. It's like Henrique, so it might be something. If he did want to part with him, he'd have to retain salary or add something in there to make that some kind of a move. So there are pieces that the Ducks can use, but will Murray do it? I don't know. That's the big issue, unfortunately. And they did have a chance. I know Jared also said, hey, what about the Ducks bringing back players? If you didn't catch this, Richie and Kasha went to Toronto. Juice is still unsigned. We talked about Perry. He went to Tampa, and then you got Bonino and Cogliano going to the Sharks. I just... would, like Jared's question, would they bring back these guys? Usually no. Murray's kind of I don't know, it's kind of weird. Most of the time, other than maybe like Beauchemin, a lot of times he doesn't seem to bring players back. So, Jared asked about, Perry going to Tampa Bay. Obviously with the buyout, I don't think before that there would ever be a chance that Murray would do that. Cogliano, that one still pisses me off. I can't stand that stupid trade. That was completely BS. So I don't see him doing that. I don't see him bringing back any of these guys, and now they're all pretty much signed anyways. I mean, Juice is the only one, maybe he's unsigned, that they could possibly go for. That's the only one out there. I don't know. Are there any other players that you could think of, whether former Ducks or not, that maybe...
No, not like I think off the top of my head. Maybe Juice, but then you have Patterin. You brought in that has that NHL experience. I'm not sure. Maybe Murray wants to circle the wagon. He lost Juice for pretty much nothing. He didn't get anything in return. He got picked up off waivers, so maybe that's a player. But if you're going to sign a player, why wait until this long? What's the holdup? It should have been one of those moves that should have been done a long time ago. So it's one of those things where you want to say you doubt it. We'll talk about the Eichel situation, but I think maybe that's the holdup on why we're not making a lot of trades right now. We're still in on that, and we're seeing that situation. And you get someone like that coming with that. I won't believe it's like $10.5 million in cap hit. Like, you have to really be conservative about your cap space and stuff like that. It was kind of funny seeing Richie and Kasse be signed with Toronto. Toronto needs that physical grit. They need someone like Richie. I was surprised that Boston didn't qualify him because he was doing pretty well and doing decent with Boston. It seemed like a good fit for him. Like I said, they have cap issues too. They still have a few trades they need to have. DeBrusk is one of those trades that are rumored to be out of town. Kasse is kind of those low risk, high reward kind of things. If he could just bounce back, the injuries situation hopefully gets past him. He could be a solid player for Toronto. It's disgusting seeing. I know Bonino was part of the San Jose organization before, but seeing Cogliano, gonna see him in a Sharks jersey, that's like the one that hurts the most. It's gonna be disgusting. And I think one of the best moves that they could have brought in was Max Talbot to the goals. Max Talbot's a really great guy. I met him a few times in Colorado. I remember we were at a signing event and it was done and he was walking out and some little girl, she had like a Philadelphia Flyers Talbot jersey. He walked by, he noticed it, walked up to the girl and he asked her if he could sign the jersey that she wanted him to sign. He was always one of those players that were just, when you talked to him, he always made you feel good. He was a really good guy, but on the ice, he gave it 110%. He was a workhorse. I watched him in practice, same thing. He was always out there just giving it his all and earning every bit of ice time he's ever had. So hopefully he brings his work ethic to the goals and he can teach these kids of that those work ethics that he did in Colorado that I watched him see. So that was a pretty good pickup for the goals.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that works out. I mean, they got plenty of overhaul down there. Everybody's brand new behind the bench. And then, like we said, they overhaul with all the assistants around Aikens, too. So I don't think coaching should be an issue this season. We'll have to see how much that it plays into with basically the same team right now. I mean, there's not much of changes with this team. So, we'll basically break it down into the league news, kind of go into that. Plenty of stuff going on around the league. There were some players that were bought out. A lot of them were taken, though. I thought it was interesting. James Neal is still out there. I don't know if that's one that the Ducks will look at. You had Keith Yandel and Martin Jones. They both ended up in Philly. Talking about off-ice issues, Tony DeAngelo, he ended up going to Carolina. And then you had Jake Virtanen that, the Ducks were thinking about going into him, but then we remember all the sexual assault stuff came out on him, so he's off the board. That's one you can cross off. The Ducks are not going to do that. Like Eddie talked about earlier in the show, thank God the Ducks aren't going after players with off-ice issues. And then you had Holtby go to Dallas. So that's just kind of some of the buyouts there. And then we'll basically go into the league news and break it down. What did you think? The Olympics are kind of going on right now, just to change gears a little bit. But, they're talking about this new schedule, the 82 games and everything going on that the league might participate. What do you think's going on with that, Eddie? And I think you said that there was something with the schedule that they were looking at.
Yeah, so as of right now, the league put a schedule out with that 2-week Olympic break, getting ready for Olympic, or that like however long it is. They have the schedule already out, the schedule we all seen for that Olympic break. Now, if anything goes weird and for some reason our NHL players don't end up in the Olympic break, are part of the Olympics, then they have another alternate schedule they haven't released yet that kind of does away with that Olympic break. So that's where it stands right now. My question is for you, Mike. Actually, two questions live on the show, which we haven't talked about. Do you want to see NHL players in the Olympics? Yes or no? And also, if you had to choose an Olympic sport you can win gold in, what would you choose? Or anything you can win gold in, what would you choose? There we go.
Nice, man. Nice. For the Olympics, it's not really a big deal to me. I like how they have all these other, championship tournaments and everything else that they do. So I'm fine with them not playing, because it seems like sometimes the star players won't go anyways because they don't want to risk an injury and then screw up, the rest of the season. So I think sometimes it's more of a distraction, if anything. So I'm okay if they don't want to do it, if they just forego it and keep the schedule as is. So I'm fine with that. And as far as the event that I would want to win,
or something that you would like maybe it's not like a whole official Olympic sport, but something that you think you can win gold in. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you did there. Okay. So something that I could win in. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Because beer drinking would not count. So I know
if
that
you had it your way.
Beer pong.
Oh no, that was mine. That was mine. That was my Olympic sport. So you and I have to do a live show, or record it, a YouTube show of us playing 1-on-1 on beer pong.
Dude,
win or lose, we booze,
that
right?
Would be hilarious. Yeah, win or lose, we booze. Beer pong. What's the other one? I forget. Where you? I can't think of the name. Where you have the like the sandbags and you throw them into the. What is that called? Where you have the hole in the board and you throw. I forgot what it's called. Yeah, cornhole. Yeah. There's the other one. I have having a memory block right now. Yeah, cornhole would be another one I laugh because my uncle has that in his backyard. We would play that with my cousin and him, and like we'd have these teams and get all crunk. It was a lot of fun, and sometimes get on a roll, man. But yeah, one of those two. I don't know why it all involves drinking, but there'd have to be drinking in the sport.
I'd probably say badminton too, while drinking. But yeah, it has to be while drinking too. You can't just.
Oh, there you go.
I can't play against a sober badminton person. We have to drink the same amount and do badminton. I remember I did that in middle school for PE, and I was like, no one could beat me. I beat the PE teacher when he tried to go against me. I don't know why. I just was like decent at that. It's just one of those weird things that. Oh no, ultimate frisbee too. I was good at that. Like, back in 6th grade, I remember I won an ultimate frisbee for a team. I was good at that. So, but yeah, that'd be cool. As far as the Olympics too, let's get back to serious hockey talk. I don't want to see NHL players in the Olympics. I want the World Cup brought back more. I guess I don't know, by seasonally. I like the World Cup. I like what that brought, that energy. It seemed like more non-traditional hockey fans were watching that World Cup. It was something different. I don't mind having the Olympics being a bunch of amateur players that aren't NHLers. I think that's like a little more special. I get it. You have teams that aren't going to be fair from other countries because they'll have their pro players. But as far as our NHL players, I wouldn't want to see them going to the Olympics, and that's just one of those things that just I don't want. But I do want the World Cup back frequently, not just every once in a while or every 4 years. What they're planning to do, I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the World Cup was good. If they had that, that would be fantastic. So, well, the big news, transitioning here, we might as well just dive into this because I know everyone's been talking about this. So just go into the whole Eichel thing here along with the league news we talked about. So, talking about Olympics and jumping around, going through hoops and a bunch of things, I guess, is I guess this whole Eichel thing should be its own Olympic event as well because it's been crazy. The situation got even weirder this last week. The agents made a statement. They thought a trade would happen when free agency got underway. Obviously, that hasn't happened, at least at the time that we're recording this, because I know news comes out after we record. It may happen the next day, but right now it hasn't happened. They also talked about, sound like they really put a lot of heat on the Sabres team, Eddie, because they said that they had a surgery down that they all agreed upon he needed to have. He wanted to have it, and they haven't done the surgery. And now it kind of F's things up because the longer they wait and the recovery time, he may or may not be able to start at the beginning of the season now. So this situation's just gotten, it's going in the wrong direction,
it's a big shit show over there. I don't know what's going on. It's just, it's bad in Buffalo. I keep saying, I know he'll be a huge addition to the Ducks. I just don't like his attitude. I don't like the drama. If things aren't going to go well in Anaheim, are his agents going to sit there and make statements? If he requests a trade out of Anaheim, we're going to deal with this drama. It's just a big drama and shit show in Buffalo. I get it. He wants to have his certain procedure. He wants to maintain his quality of life. I'm not sure why Buffalo isn't allowing him when he had his own surgeons take a look at it and see that. It's bad over there. It's something that I hope the Ducks stay away from. Like I said before, I think the lack of trades and lack of big agent free signings are because the Ducks are still in on the Eichel situation. They're willing to take that. He'd be a game changer, a player that can significantly help us. It's just some of the attitude problems that I've seen in the past, or I've heard or read about. The statements that he said, it just didn't really rub me the right way. But if he's willing to come and want to be part of this rebuild and to help the Ducks get to that next level and be a contending team, and so be it. I'm not gonna turn my back because I have a personal problem because of statements he said in the past. It's just obviously it's getting ugly over there when your agent's going public and saying stuff. You're kind of forcing management and you're telling all the other teams like he really wants out, and is at the time now. I know the asking price is really high for him, and they have to kind of lower that price, especially of the surgery he's gonna have, and now it's so far into almost into the season, he's probably not gonna be ready by the season. As long as it doesn't take Drysdale or Zegras away from us, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, and that's the question a lot of you asked. What's the most the Ducks should offer? And we've kind of covered this before. We said no Zegras, no Drysdale for sure. We talked about Comtois a little bit. Some of you that kind of strikes a nerve with you. Some of you it doesn't. To me, it's all about his health. I mean, first and foremost, he's got to get that taken care of. And if the doctors from his doctors, the team doctors, and all these people agree on what's the best thing for him, and he's in agreement with the best thing for it, I don't know what the holdup is. It should get done because he wants to get back to playing hockey, whether it's for Buffalo or another team. Obviously, he still wants to play. So let's get the surgery done so he can recover and they can figure it out. Plus, I think some teams are hesitant too because they don't know what the recovery time is from the surgery and what it's all going to entail. Plus, they haven't actually done the surgery, so if they change their mind, remember they were exploring some options before, and I think that's a hang-up. And I think that does go to some of the questions that you guys asked about the Ducks and why aren't they doing big stuff. Well, they are still in on Eichel, and the problem is this is dragging out. So it's going to get to a point where the Ducks are going to have to say, okay, we're out, and then now we're going to look at trading Rakell and Henrique or someone else and going after some other players or something, because this problem is, one, it's not fair to Eichel himself, regardless of his comments and everything. I mean, you got to get your health taken care of. That's one thing. Now, outside of that, this is screwing up everything for a lot of people, because now Buffalo's got to figure out what they need to do. They're either going to keep him and move forward and go on, which if that's the direction they go, great. If not, then these other teams are sitting there waiting in the dark, as to what's going to happen. They don't know if he's going to have the surgery yet or what type he's going to have it or when and all this stuff. There's too many questions. So I think the Ducks, they shouldn't just sit on this and hope that he's going to magically have the surgery and then all of a sudden it's going to all work out. It just seems like there's too much stuff going on with this. I'm not saying don't be in on it. It sounded like the Ducks were one of the final teams possibly to be in the mix, but if there's some other players out there and there's some other moves that they're going to want to do, I don't know. I mean, you're getting to the point now where you're going to need to do something, because it's already been almost a week now since free agency and players are going, or teams are going around picking up their players, and the Ducks are going to get left in the dust, basically, Eddie. And if that's the case, I'm not upset with that. I mean, if they don't do this and it doesn't work out, that's fine. But if they don't do this and then don't do anything else because of it,
and I
that's
think
a
the
huge
biggest
mistake.
problem is, and I'm pretty sure, and just by speculation, nothing set in stone. I think the problem was with Buffalo and the Ducks. I think it's Zegras and it's Drysdale. I don't think they want to let them go, and as they shouldn't. Like Zegras and Drysdale can be those generational talents that you really want on your team to help you rebuild and be those future superstars, those Getzloffs, those Perrys that came in, and look at them now. Both those players are probably going to have their jerseys retired, and they're probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. So we never know. It's just you can't lose players like that. So Buffalo's going to have to alter what they want and have to want something different. Obviously, you have Gibson too. It's been rumored. I can't see the Ducks trading that, but I think that's something that I would be okay with going over there to Buffalo if we get Eichel. Like I said, personal statements he's made before I don't like, and I think he has a maturity issue. I don't know. Maybe it's something he can grow out of it and be a different kind of player, a game changer for the Ducks. I do wish him the best on his procedure, though. Like Mike made a good point too. Regardless of what I think of his personal opinion and what he says, he's still a human being. He's still a hockey player. I don't want to see him having long-term injuries and end up like Kessler. I still feel bad for Kessler having to deal with his hip injuries. That's something that's really unfortunate, and I just keep him in my thoughts and prayers, and hopefully he can have a better quality of life going forward. But this is one of those situations where either Buffalo has to tone down what they want and not request certain players, or Murray has to make a move. You have to figure out what you want going forward. Like you said, teams are making moves. We can go with the Pacific Division. All the players they're getting. The Kings are one of those teams that are notorious for just keep building their team and making them better, and they got better this offseason. What do you want to do? You want to just sit there and be a borderline AHL team and have your San Diego Gulls be better than your NHL team, or you want to bump yourself up and increase yourself to be better. But the time's now to make a move. And if you're in on an Eichel, then try to make it happen. If not, then try to find someone else that can help the Ducks, that can improve scoring, that can improve the power play. You said James Neal still unsigned. His contract was really horrible, and he was up and down and fluctuating. But you sign him for a kind of low-term deal and take a chance on him. You never know. Put him on a line with Zegras. He knows how to finish. He's a power forward. He gets in those gritty areas. He pisses off teams. Something might happen where the Ducks can actually improve their scoring. We can see a little more power play goals, and we won't be dead last or in the bottom standings in the power play this season.
Yeah, the Ducks, they have plenty of room in the cap right now. If you're looking on cap friendly, they have around 18, 19 million. They do have to sign those RFAs, as we talked about earlier in the show, so that's going to eat up some of that, of course, at least $1 million per each player. Obviously, Comtois should be getting more in there for sure. So, some of that will be chewed out, but they still have money to go do some things here. So it's not like, and I know some of you commented that too. You sent us questions like, the Ducks have money, why don't they do it? And that, I'm with you. I'm like, why don't they do it? Another player that they could have tried to maybe do was Taylor Hall, but Taylor Hall was taken off. He signed a 4-year extension at $6 million each year at Boston, so he's happy where he's at. Talking about forwards, that might help, like we were talking about Neal and whatnot. But that's one that's out. The Ducks do have some room in there, so they can make an Eichel trade work. Obviously, like we said, we had that poll of the Untouchables, and the Untouchables are Zegras and Drysdale. So that's where it's at. Who knows where he's going to land? Hopefully, like we said, he gets taken care of. But, man, what a situation over there. So it's definitely one to monitor and see what happens. And, speaking of injuries, too, kind of a sad one, Eddie, is Montreal. Shea Weber, huh? Looks like he may be forced to retire.
That sucks, man. I really hope that's not the case. Like, I was hoping, I was kind of bored. I don't know. I was hoping Montreal would have won the cup. They're the underdogs. I really wanted to see Shea Weber and Carey Price win a cup. But it's just an injury like that's going to force you to retire. Like I've said it numerous times. I don't care who you are in the league. I don't care if I extremely dislike you. I would never want to see a player being forced to retire, not go out on his own accord. It's just something, one of those, like, any athlete shouldn't ever do in their life, and I hate to see that. But I hopefully it's not the case. Hopefully he can come back and at least kind of retire on his own time. But it looks kind of bad right now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, that has happened. And you brought up Kessler, too, when we were talking about Eichel. Had my family over the other day, and we were talking about the Kessler situation, too, and what a bummer that was. We were talking about the Ducks, and, who do you miss that's not playing on the team right now? And, a lot of people were talking about Perry, and then there was discussion about Getzloff because we didn't know where he was going to go and whatnot, and obviously he's back. But Kessler was one, too, that we saw, obviously he had to retire because of his injuries. That was unfortunate. So some other stuff going on. I guess the other big situation right now is Evander Kane's back in the news. Apparently his estranged wife said that he's, quote, a compulsive gambling addict, and that he's always, throwing games with bookies to win. And then the league came out and said they're going to investigate him. Evander Kane came out and said that the allegations are false, that he never bet on hockey or the NHL or any of the Sharks games or games he played in. So some serious drama here, Eddie. Again, I'm glad that this is one player that the Ducks didn't go out and try and get in the past, as we've talked about. But, man, this situation is just, it seems like getting uglier.
You know what? I don't know if you recall, like years ago when Ducks needed that left winger, he was rumored to be the Ducks, or fans were saying he'd be a good asset to the Ducks. I'm glad they didn't go and do that. I'm glad San Jose went and got him. I don't like Evander Kane. I think he's a piece of shit, to be honest. But I don't know what's going on. His ex-wife or estranged ex-wife is saying stuff. You can never know the truth of that, because some people fire off saying it's bad, saying worse things about their spouse than it is. I really hope that he's not abandoning his kids and his pregnant wife. Regardless, you still have your baby in her. You have to have that responsibility as a man to take care of your kids, and you should want that responsibility. But we do know he has a lot of issues going on with gambling. That started off with that picture he posted long time in Vegas holding that stack of money when we're during the recession. He's been $500,000 he owes to a casino, and it was during that time when they're in the Stanley Cup playoffs, playing against Vegas. It seems like this guy can't get it together. He's losing his house, filed bankruptcy. There's issues with his teammates. That's why he was rumored to be traded last season. I know his wife posted a picture that his teammates got him a Gambling for Dummies book. I don't know. It's just this guy does not seem to get it. He's not seem to care. I know gambling's the same equivalently as having drug and alcohol issues, but being this habitual this long, it kind of seems you're incorrigible, or you just don't really give a shit or give a fuck. And I'm sorry, I'm cussing. It's just you leave your wife like that with your kid and a newborn you're about to have. I think you're just a piece of crap. Like, if drugs or alcohol is getting to you that much, where you're gonna just kind of not, I don't care like about your wife. You guys have your problems. You guys don't love each other, hate each other. That's fine, but you have to be there for your kids. Just this habitual act, this makes him just. Man, and him, I really hope just as a hockey player that he did not throw games for his gambling thing, because that's the ultimate like disgusting thing you can do. Like, it's probably the second worst thing you do is like abandoning your kids like that. It's sad. It's unfortunate. I hope the league does their due diligence and really goes and investigates it. And if they find him guilty, then yeah, he should be banned from the league permanently and stripped from everything. I never want to see him a part of hockey again if that's the case. If it's not, then like, dude, you have to get some help. It's been too long. It's been so many years. Your teammates are trying to help you. I'm sure your team's trying to help you. I'm sure the league's trying to help you. If you don't care, bro, just have some I don't know, have some integrity. Quit the league. It's just stop bringing this negativity. Stop tarnishing hockey. It's not good. You're just ruining it for everybody. Like Mikey said, I'm glad this kind of issue is not with the Ducks, because this is something that can really bring a team down, the whole morale of your team down. The San Jose Sharks have to deal with this. They have to deal with it internally. They have to deal with it publicly. But I hope the league really finds out what's going on, and then if his ex-wife was making those allegations, and shame on her. And it sucks that she's dealing with that. She has to make those kind of allegations to him throwing games. We all know he's a big notorious gambler, but him throwing games on this, I don't know. That's just horrible if that's true. But you know what, Ducks fans, we can hold our heads high. We don't have to deal with any of this off ice drama. I think the biggest off ice drama we had was like recently. I don't know, Mike, remember when Getzloff made that comment about I'm not gonna repeat it, but it was chickens and lollipop kind of comment, and that was just it. But it's just, I don't know. This kind of pisses me off on a whole other level and different levels. But I hope it works out for everyone. I hope it works out for his children, or his kid and his unborn kid. I hope if he really has that gambling issue, he can get the help he needs to be a better person and be a better father. And if he did really gamble on games, and he threw games on purpose, and I hope he's never in the league again in his life. But I still really hope that he can mature and be a better father to his children, because all your children, all the kids, they need your mother, and they need a father too. So that's the only thing I say about him. I still think he's a piece of shit, though.
And I feel you. I mean, that's the sad part. I mean, there's kids involved. That's what makes this even worse. If it's just them two and they're going at it, I mean, they're doing what they're gonna do, right? They're gonna go at it. She's airing out this dirty laundry or whatever. If it's true, right? It's alleged right now, so I don't quote me saying it's for sure. But I mean, he's throwing the stuff out there, and it's just a mess, man. I saw this post, and then that post, and the investigation. I'm like, oh my god, dude, this guy's in the news again for some stuff. So yeah, I hope the biggest thing is that the kids don't suffer through all this, especially long term. And if he needs to get help with this gambling stuff, which it does sound like there's that going on, it's maybe not the nature of what he's saying or whatnot, but there's obviously stuff going on, and hopefully he gets that resolved, because I don't know, it just looks like an ugly situation right now, and now the league's having to deal with this in the off season. And then they have to deal with Chicago too, Eddie. They got some stuff going on over there with Stan Bowman. I don't know all the details on that. Do you know what's going on in Chicago? Because they're investigating him for some sexual
I have no
assault
idea what's going on over there. I've read briefly about it. I think it's absolutely effing disgusting. I can't use the F word again. I probably should use it on this thread. It's just something. I don't care. Sexual assault's the worst thing in the freaking world. If you're part of that, you're a pedophile, rapist. I think you should be wiped off the face of the earth. And obviously, with Chicago, them holding back and not being full disclosure on what's going on, it's making their organization look really bad. You had Nick Boynton come out, talk to lawyers, and he mentioned names, and he mentioned that he knew and other players on the team knew what was going on. You got the guy in question from schools that he's coached, colleges he's coached, other players coming forward, and it's been substantiated. It's just a bad look over there. It's a bad look for hockey. It's just, I don't know how this could be swept under the rug and not be dealt with before. I get, like, I always talk about, like, okay, like hazing's one of those things where it's like, I grew up in an environment where I grew up in the Army. I grew up in you know, being a police cadet. I grew up in a law enforcement environment where it's just, you're a boot and you're that low man intonable. You get that kind of hazing, but when it comes to sexual assault, that's something that's uncalled for. It's something that it's just disgusting, and it sucks that we have to deal with San Jose, we have to deal with Chicago, and just making the league look bad. And it's like, we're not the NFL, we're not the NBA, where this is common. People just kind of turn a blind eye when things like this happen. We had a certain prestige and a certain pride in our league, and now it's Chicago and San Jose's and Evander Kane are making it look, our league look tarnished. I hope punishment is brought to the people that knew. Well, not really knew, but I know it's really hard to talk about it. But I hope this is a learning experience, and if anything goes on, that people aren't afraid to mention it and talk about it. It's just really, really bad for the league, and it sucks. And for all the victims, like, my heart goes out to you. Like, I know you'll never be the same. It's going to be something haunting, and I really hope that you get some kind of justice that you deserve, because it's one of those things that it's going to be with you for the rest of your life, and it's an effed up situation.
Yeah, I would not want to be general manager Bowman right now. There's a lot of stuff going on, trying to deal with these allegations and things. I don't know how it's going to pan out with Chicago. And, kind of wrap up with the trades, some of the other bigger trades, I guess, around the league, because Chicago was in there too. They had some more stuff going on, other drama, not necessarily, I guess not negative off-ice drama, but I guess kind of. They had a trade, right? We know Vegas ended up sending Marc-Andre Fleury to Chicago. Then this was another part with the Blackhawks being in the news because they weren't sure if he was going to go with the team or he was going to retire, because he basically got traded for a prospect since Vegas could, create salary cap space. And this was another drama with the Blackhawks this last week or so, Eddie, and and Vegas too, because Vegas, this whole thing was also handled poorly, because for those of you that don't know, Marc-Andre Fleury didn't even find out he was traded until it was posted on social media. So he didn't even hear from the Vegas team. Then it put him in a situation where he was obviously upset, and then he wasn't sure if he was going to go play for Chicago, which he then posted that little short video, if you didn't see it, where he basically said, "Let's go Chicago, I'm ready," and whatnot. But this was all screwed up too. So I don't... I get it. Vegas wanted to move him and do the salary dump, but they didn't tell him. Then they went and did this trade with Chicago. The trade's announced between these two teams, but then Fleury doesn't know. Shame on Chicago and Vegas for this. It's probably more Vegas, obviously, because they made the trade, but this is anotlike thing that, man, they just really dropped the ball on how they handled this.
Vegas was the villain. A player like Marc-Andre Fleury, he's like most beloved player in the league. I think he's probably like our Teemu Selanne. You never hear anything bad about him. Everyone loves him. He just won you a Vezina, and then you kind of just trade him like he's trash. Like you trade him like he's a depth player or AHL player. And then he finds out on Twitter, like, holy crap, he doesn't even have an official Twitter. And I know one other podcast was saying, a lot of these players that don't have Twitter on social media, they have a secret Twitter, so like to see what's going on. And to find out on Twitter, you can't even be a good management and let him know what's going on. Hey, we're shopping you. Hey, like we're gonna trade you. Preferences, yes, I know it's business first, and they're gonna get the best thing they can possibly get for a salary dump. But come on, at least show a little bit of respect for a player like that. At least tell him that you're gonna shop him and you're gonna trade him to whoever can take him for a salary dump. It's just crazy. And then he finds out on Twitter. It's like the worst. I'm glad he's out of Vegas. I think he deserves better. It sucks he went to Chicago. That's just kind of a bad thing. And he wasn't sure he was going to go there, but I guess he wants to finish out career on his own time and not just like be forced to retire. He posted the video. He has a jersey. It feels really weird seeing him in a Chicago jersey. Chicago has their captain back. They have Seth Jones. They have Caleb Jones, which is a pretty good defenseman from Edmonton too. I think they're gonna have a better season having a Fleury between the pipes. So I still wish Fleury the best. I really it sucks he's in Chicago and that shit show that's going on there. But we can all just hope for him to have a good season. Hopefully he gets not retired, but traded to a contending team, and he can a better team get a chance to win a cup. Hell, I'd be happy if he gets traded to the Ducks just to have Fleury in a Ducks uniform. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. That was one thing I was thinking too. Is like, okay, say the Ducks were gonna trade Gibson, but pull in another goalie. I'm like, I'll take Fleury every day of the week, man. I mean, that guy's awesome. He's a class act, like you said. You never hear anything bad about him. He's like a total team player and everything. And there were some rumors that they had talked about that he could have been possibly traded or whatever. But the thing is that they never told him he was traded, and he finds out on social media, and that's just trash. That's just classless, in my opinion. And, and I do like the Vegas Knights. I'm one of those. I know a lot of Ducks fans don't. They can't stand Vegas and everything. I'm probably in that boat now because after they did this, I'm like, they lost a lot of respect, for me. I just don't. It's a BS move. That's what it is. The way, not that they traded him. I'm not talking about that. They wanted to do their salary dump. They traded him, whatever. The trade was obviously lopsided. But, they did what they did. But the way that they handled it was just trash. It was just horrible. What did you think about those other trades, though, too? You were talking about Chicago and Edmonton. You think that those, along with Fleury, you think that's going to make Chicago a little better?
Fleury had a great season. He's a Vezina Trophy goalie. Yeah, he's going to elevate them. They have their captain back, dealing with his issues. Chicago's going to be a better team. Kirby Dach is healthy, and he's going to be a game changer. So, I feel that they're going to be a better team. Playoff possibility, maybe a wild card, but they're going to be in the mix. Edmonton, too, surprised everybody. They got Duncan Keith and a forward for Caleb Jones, the brother of Seth Jones, who recently signed an extension for $9.5 million and a third-round pick. So they have the two brothers on the team, and it's kind of weird that Edmonton got Duncan Keith. There's no salary retained or anything like that. Caleb Jones I think he's better than Duncan Keith. So that was kind of weird to see. And it's been a trend in the NHL of brothers being on teams, because you have Cale Makar and his brother on the Avalanche. You had the Dach brothers Chicago when they drafted him. You had Quinn Hughes go to New Jersey with Jack Hughes. It's just one of those trending things. I think they're copying the Ducks of trying to recruit brothers so they can win the Stanley Cup when we had the Niedermayers. but kind of who knows. Seattle, too, they made their first trade in franchise history, sending Tyler Pitlick, who they picked up in the expansion draft, to the Flames for a 2022 fourth-round pick. And also, too, they also had we had a question, too, with Grubauer. I forgot. I'm sorry, I forgot to write it down for the fan question. I apologize. But this fan asked about Grubauer's contract, if it was rejected by the NHL, and if he was going to sign with someone else. And no, it was just rejected because it was he took more of a front-loaded bonus, more than 25% in the first year, and you can't do that. They're going to redo the contract. He's going to stay with Seattle, so it's not going to be anything else with that. Also, too, with Colorado, a former goalie Grubauer was with Colorado. You had Cale Makar signing less than Seth Jones at a $9 million contract, and he'll be a unrestricted free agent at 28, hitting his prime. I think I think he's probably one of the best defensemen in the league, and that contract's really, really good. Joe Sakic is a borderline genius. And then we had breaking news right now about Elliot Friedman. He's hearing that Ryan Murray, actually the team announced it too. Ryan Murray has a deal in place to go to Colorado. It's a 1-year deal at $2 million. So that's kind of the breaking news we have from Colorado too.
I always crack up when we get those news like that. Sometimes we'll be on the show and then something will finish recording, then it comes up. So I saw that, and for some of you out there, once in a while, Eddie and I will text each other during the show and be like, "Oh, hey, there's this," or like, "Oh, there's an update. We got to change this." So sometimes we do things on the fly on the show.
It happens after the show, like the next day or right when we put the podcast out. The Ducks will announce something. It's like, damn it.
No, you're absolutely right. It's always like that.
Okay, we'll kind of move on with like all these transitions. I'm talking about the whole Pacific because that's what's going to affect the Ducks. Well, so Vancouver, they send Roussel, Beagle, Erickson, a 2021 first, 2022 second, and a 2023 seventh round pick in exchange for Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland, who signed an extension with Vancouver. OKL, he was giving them an opportunity to trade for last season. He gave them a date. They didn't do it. Obviously, he waived his no movement clause to go over there. Connor Garland was the pest that everyone saw last season. He was poised to be getting a big contract extension. He's a game changer for Vancouver. I think he was one of the better players for Arizona, and they lost someone. I think Arizona's reverting back to another rebuild mode by losing kind of players like this. Arizona has been taking on bad contracts. We don't have to worry about them anymore. They're moving to the Central because Seattle's coming to the Pacific Division. But I don't know how many they had like 5 rebuilds in the last 7 years they're gonna have. So I don't know. We'll see them move to Quebec one day. Who knows? But Vegas, they actually they were involved in a 3-way trade that saw them receive Nolan Patrick from the Preds for Cody Glass. It was a 3-way trade, including, I want to say Cody Glass. Oh, yeah, Vegas, too. Nolan Patrick's been injured. He has a lot of potential, a former first-round pick. He just never really got to form in Vegas. For Ducks fans, he's pretty the Andre Cosse. Their team, however, he was a first-round pick. So Vegas is hoping to hopefully he can stay healthy and help them out. He's a big body, and he can do some damage if he does stay healthy. So we'll have to wait and see. But those are all the transactions of recent. If you want to include the LA Kings, they got Denault from Montreal. I'll add this one on the fly, too. We forgot to add it in our notes. But he's a really good two-way defensive center. McKinnon said he was probably the most underrated and the hardest center to play against in the NHL. And the Kings just keep getting better and better. And rumors too were before they were in the Eichel situation, but apparently probably not since they signed Denault on a free agency. So it just adds to the frustration for Ducks fans. You see our crosstown rivals getting better and adding probably one of the best defensive centers in the league on their team.
Yeah, and that's the theme. Sadly, I mean, it's like this team does great in the draft, like we said, with Madden run the show there for the last several years, and they're pulling up all these players, and it's just unfortunate. It's just, I mean, you can't just keep this team going through the draft. That's not going to be the answer. I was having this discussion with a few people this week about the team and what they need to do, and it's it's got to be a combination of stuff. I mean, yeah, you bring back Getzloff, veteran leadership, of course, and you got to have a mix of that. You can't just keep relying on these drafts the last couple seasons, and that seems what the Ducks have been doing. They haven't made any big trades really recently at all, or any kind of shakeup, other than like sending Cogliano away or something like that. That's just dumb. But that's where the team's at. I still think that they can do something. I do like the fact that Getzloff put it on Murray in his comments saying, hey, we need to do more stuff. Kind of almost is like, if something doesn't happen, it's like maybe Getzloff can I don't know what kind of voice he'll have with the Samuelis, but maybe you can tell the Samuelis, hey, we need another GM. We have Solomon on there. I think he kind of worked that contract too for Getzlaf, so it would benefit both sides with that added game bonus thing. So you're just going to have to wait and see with this team and what happens in the next month or so. If nothing happens in the next month or so, the next podcast will probably be depressing. But I'm thinking that they're gonna do something. I don't know how crazy it's gonna be. Like I said, some of those names have still been thrown out there. Henrique, Rakell, supposedly Delorier has a high value. So I'd watch those names. And could wrap up. We have one last little question that George gave us, Eddie, and we can finish up. It's another jersey question, but it's a good one. He asks, which jersey is your favorite? And it's not just the Ducks. Any team, home, away, or alternate. This is a good one. I think for me, if it's Ducks, I'm going Mighty Ducks, the original white jersey. But if you're going with other jerseys, I like the Hartford Whalers jersey, and I like the Quebec Nordiques jersey. I don't know if since those aren't active teams, I guess that would qualify under alternate because George said home, away, or alternate. So I would go with the Quebec Nordiques or the Hartford Whalers, I guess, is my favorite jerseys now that aren't Ducks related. What do you think as we wrap up?
Definitely it's going to be the my favorite jersey. It has to be the eggplant Ducks jersey, but that's going to be too easy because obviously we're going to have bias because we are Ducks fans. So I'm going to answer it as of not including the Ducks. Actually, I'll include the Ducks right now. Of all the team's current jerseys, and my favorite jersey is going to be the Colorado Avalanche. It's a reverse retro. They're Nordiques, or not? Yeah, they're kind of like throwback reverse retro of the Nordiques. I think they did everything right on that jersey. It's beautiful. I own the jersey, Cale Makar one. It looks nice. I bought a custom-made tank top with that logo and their dual jersey scheme on it. And I think that is the best jersey in the league right now if you include all the jerseys. Hopefully the Ducks realize they're having a bad team and they'll go and just do a throwback jersey for the fans. It increased their sales. I think I've said before, you'd have fans of other teams buy that jersey if they just bring back the old school Mighty Ducks logo, the eggplant, even the away white color. Actually, it wouldn't be away because things are different back then. But the white color eggplant, I don't care what you do, just bring it back. It'd be a hit. Everyone would be happy, and you guys would make a lot of money. So if you guys are listening too, if any Ducks representatives of sales, that was my idea. So if you want to shoot me a percentage of it or just shoot me a couple jerseys, that'd be fine. But yeah, as of right now, minus the Ducks, I want to say that that Colorado reverse retro is my favorite.
Yeah, I love that one. That's the one I was referring to. Yeah, that one is spot on. I do like the Vegas Knights third one, but now that they screwed up Fleury, I'm not. I was almost going to buy that jersey, and now I'm not. So screw Vegas.
I do like the Nordiques old school jersey, like way back, that dark blue colored one. I like that one a lot. I probably would I was hoping the Avalanche would go that route, but what they did, it was still good. But that Nordiques one is still great. It's still good. The Hartford Whalers one too. I like Carolina's, like that little whale on the patches too. It's clean. Yes. It's crisp. It's awesome. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for saying this, but that LA Kings purple and gold one they have, I think that's crisp. It's really good too. It sucks to say that I like a Kings jersey, but it was actually they did a good job. They did a really good job on the reverse retro too. So, but it's not my favorite. I'm just saying they did a good job. I would never wear it unless I lost a bet.
Yeah, I mean I like that one because it's also old school Laker colors. Even though I don't like the Kings, but I mean I feel you on that. And yeah, for sure at the Ducks, if it was any kind of Mighty Ducks thing, obviously ESPN said, "Hey, we're the Anaheim Mighty Ducks on the frickin' expansion draft show." So hey, they're not going to change the name, but why not? Yeah, do this. We even talked about this with Mike on his Seattle show. We were talking about the jerseys, how we've thrown out these ideas before, and it's like they could totally do it. And I think, I do like the Ducks orange jersey with the Mighty Ducks logo and stuff. But like you talked about, if they're not going to bring it back as the main jersey, fine, whatever. I'll go with that. But if you're going to do another third one, do it with the original Mighty Ducks colors, not the 25th anniversary where it was all kind of like weird with sharp kind of color tinge into that. I mean, I like that one, but do it like the old school colors. And like you said, I think purple as the main color on that third, if they were going to do it, that would be pretty sick.
Hopefully, we could always put our fingers crossed. Hopefully the NHL brings back a full just a retro jersey to include that. That'd be great. I've heard rumors too that they're going to include the reverse retros next season because it was a shortened season. They didn't have any fans in the arena until later. So they want fans to kind of experience that. They want to kind of boost their profits. Of course, that's all what it's about. It's not about the fans liking the jerseys. It's about profits. But they're going to have the reverse retros next season. They're going to have the alternate third, the home and away. I just really hope we can see just a full-on retro jersey from each team. Vegas, they could bring on old school Wranglers jersey. Seattle can, I don't know, they can bring on what's the Seals jersey as an old school retro or something like that. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Oh, for sure. Definitely any of those. I like those retro jerseys. All those are a good idea. I think they were good last year. And yes, the Ducks need to use it because I think they only played 2 games with it this last season. So, all right. We're finally towards the end. This was one of our longest shows. We had a lot to talk about, a lot of stuff to cover. We kind of waited till everything was done. So we'll see when the next show comes. Hopefully, like we said, the Ducks do something, make some kind of moves or something between now and then. But we'll probably have another show before the end of the month, and we'll get back into our regular flow when the season starts for sure. So thanks for listening. We appreciate it, and let's go Ducks.